ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Dying time is here. That's right, we're talking Black Christmas 2006 on Kill by Kill. Ho, 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 how you doing, everybody? It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, welcoming you once again to the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the gory details of Black Christmas in the hopes that a sorority sister's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make at their expense. And as always, there is only one person I trust to help me de-ice a windshield with just a brush. The one and the only Gina Radcliffe. How you doing, Gina?
I brought you a present, Patrick. Merry Christmas.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of things to unwrap. What am I going to find in this box?
You might find some eyeballs or maybe some human flesh cookies. I don't know. It's a surprise. Open it up before it starts to smell.
The one thing that we discovered, and I don't know that we mentioned it last episode, was that human flesh cookies taste better in milk.
Well, it doesn't
which
everything.
I doubt.
Well,
they don't seem to make them any softer.
No, they do seem to have a texture like that of an overbaked cracker, don't they?
It's like gas station beef jerky.
Cut into festive holiday shapes.
I don't know that I have another human flesh cookie joke. That's
I think
my big
we've
one.
exhausted. Luckily the movie moves on from the human flesh cookies. We only get a single shot of that. They exercise some restraint that they did not exhibit for the rest of the movie by not mentioning or showing the flesh cookies anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think the one advantage it may have is a lack of restraint. I just don't think that lack of restraint is for everyone. But let's save it, because there's something I need to tell you, Gina. I don't want to disturb you, but we are not alone. That's right, we have a very special guest, and you may know her as the host of the Shining 237 podcast, the one, the only Suzen Kruglnska.
Hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's a wonderful pleasure. You have a fantastic podcast. And I was hoping that you would bring your eye for detail to this interesting film that is also about a snowbound house.
It's got a little overlap. Snow, fake snow, and a big house.
Yes.
I need to get to this like how snowbound they really are, though. I mean, that's jumping way ahead, though. But I have a little bit of a rant written out in my notes here. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
In fact, not even occurring to me that who our guest was. I'd actually written in capital letters, "What are they at the Overlook?"
Right. It's a sorority house.
Where are? Okay, we'll get to that.
We're
jumping way ahead.
So, Susan, we have a tradition here at the Kill by Kill podcast, and that is to ask our guests, where's the first time that you ever encountered the 2006 version of Black Christmas?
I will be truthful and tell you that I didn't watch it till this weekend. But so I was a fan, of course, as a horror movie fanatic of the original. Love the original. Mm-hmm. And I do sort of remember when this came out, and I kind of remember the bad reviews and kind of remember thinking it'd be sort of interested in watching it, but just never in the 13 years that have passed gotten around to watching it. Was not high on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the reviews. So yeah, this was my first time. I watched it 2.5 times for you guys.
God bless you.
And I still can't tell you who's who as far as
Nope. This character, of all the movies we have seen for this podcast, and I think we're up to what, Patrick, counting like Patreon episodes, 16, 17 movies?
Sure, yeah, something along those lines.
This has done the worst job of distinguishing the characters. I don't remember any of their names, except the main girl. I believe her name is Lee.
No, Kelly. No,
I mean,
there is a Lee, but
There's a Lee.
Yeah, but the Claire I know is the missing girl because they say her name more often than any other character's name in the entire movie.
very true.
Which is interesting because I believe she's the first one killed, like within the first 5 minutes of the movie. But there's a lot of banging on doors and yelling, "Claire, Claire, Claire! Has anyone seen Claire?" And but nobody else. We don't know anybody else's names there. And not only do we not know their names, they all look alike. And I don't know if this is supposed to be on purpose or some sort of like.
It couldn't be on purpose. I mean, it's so stupid. You just don't know. I mean, you literally think, didn't that girl just die? What is she doing walking into this person's bedroom? But again, to compliment the original, at least people had their hair up. Like one girl would have her hair up to differentiate herself. Like Margot Kidder had that really cool, 70s kind of crazy bang that Stevie Nicks cut with her hair up. And you had Phyllis, the name Phyllis, which was kind of a different name. You knew that she was the nerdy girl. She had short hair. That was Andrea Martin in the original. You just had some personality. You had, again, I just can't emphasize the differentiating, the haircuts enough. Like, how hard is it to put a girl's hair in a ponytail or in a ballerina bun?
They all have like long dark hair, except for the final girl. She has blonde hair. I know, and Claire has blonde hair, which made I for the life of me,
I don't think so.
I could not figure out what was going on with this sex tape.
Claire has dark hair.
Does she?
No, Claire's not in the sex tape.
Well, who's
That's
in the sex tape
different
then?
one.
It's like Melissa or Kelly. We'll never know. We could watch this 5 more times.
They all have,
and we still wouldn't know.
They all have long dark hair. They all have, they're complaining about the cold, but wearing very low cut cropped shirts. The only thing we know about these characters is that they fucking hate each other. The movie cannot emphasize enough how just seething with loathing these characters are for each other. Right up until the very end, when they're all actively being killed off, they're still calling each other bitches and pulling faces at each other, and it's just like, wow, what is this movie trying to say?
And again,
I don't know.
Just to throw it back again to the original, Margot Kidder, again, her role, she was a unlikable character, but you still loved her. She was one of those great, she was a bitch and she was, but she was still appealing. She had personality.
She was salty and
she was salty and she was mean, but you still, enjoyed watching her and you didn't really want her to die. Here, you're like, you just cannot care. There's no way to care. So, basic.
It does not help that the entire cast has been given Brazilian blowouts.
Yeah.
And that everyone from the back looks exactly the same. It's crazy that there's no variance here. Like, as close to a variance as we get is one person has a harsh bang, and that's it. It's just
I was like,
they are all the same. Half of the cast is wearing black coats throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, oh, that's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Oh, that's Party of Five girl, and then like everybody else is like, shrug emoji. I have no idea,
No, I even Googled up these actresses. Like, I don't even have that background. Like, I never watched Party of Five. So I Googled up these actresses, and then seeing their photos in Google Image, I'm like, I do not recognize this person. Like, I have no idea who this is in the movie. I mean, not to be lookist, but, sometimes all pretty girls do kind of look alike. And it's like they all have the exact same perfect nose. They all have the exact same perfect mouth. They have the exact same perfect eyes. And then if you do their hair all the same, it's like, come on, you got to give us something. Give them a blue streak in their hair, something.
I will say that the one thing that I found as a sort of mental trick for myself that really enhanced my enjoyment of watching the film the second time was that I started thinking of it less as a remake of a classic proto-slasher and more of a gritty reboot of the facts of life. And at the point where Andrea Martin stopped being Mrs. Mack and started playing Mrs. Garrett, this movie was a fucking delight.
But Patrick, I mean,
yes.
Even the facts of life had a fat girl. Come on.
If only there was Natalie. If only there was Natalie. Or Tootie. Tootie. There was no Tootie. Come on.
I mean, I've never, granted, I've never, joined a sorority. I've never set foot in a sorority house. I am pretty sure that most sororities have, at least one member who weighs more than 115 pounds.
But they left to go skiing. All of the more hirsute or heavier members of the house all went skiing in one mass.
Screw you, bitches! We're going to Vail.
That's right. Everyone with hips, get in the car. We're going skiing.
Yeah. That's the party I'm joining.
Everyone above a size 4, hit the van right now.
They got the good food.
Yeah. They all have families who love them. It's like the pretty girls in movies. Pretty girls never have parents who love them. Pretty girls are always rejected. So that's another kind of a trope, I think.
At one point, one of the characters tells Lauren, the drunkie, she complains that, oh, you're a better sister than my own sister, and she says, Dick Cheney is a better sister to you than your own sister. And yes. I liked that line. Just imagining for a second Dick Cheney being somebody's sister. Put a smile on my face.
It was the most clever line of the entire movie for sure. That was the standout. Like, that had to be improvised. It was too good. It was too good.
So let's get back into it. Let's do a quick body count. Who's still left alive at this point in the movie? Just about everyone that you would have gone to see this movie to go see. All of the TV stars are still in this movie. Andrea Martin is still alive. I had to continuously look at the cast list on IMDb in order to remember their character names. So, do I have a whole list of jokes about who they are and they're well observed? No, because we never find out who these people are. They're dominated by one characteristic, and in some points, no characteristics at all. I'm mystified by the lack of characterization in this movie by two people who were pretty good at doing just that, both in TV and in the movies. I find it mystifying.
Yeah, and then what do? They add more characters. We get this sister character. Is this Lee? I literally finished watching this movie like 20 minutes ago. And
it is Lee.
That's Lee.
Yeah, she is Claire's sister, and
yes.
and like Kyle, Oliver Hudson's character, and Eve are characters who are very, very briefly set up as suspicious. And,
yes.
and the movie goes nowhere with it. Like, here's this sister that Claire has never mentioned before. She's being bitchy for no reason, just like everybody else in the house. She just comes in there like flailing around like Alexis Carrington, and somehow this sister that Claire has never mentioned anybody before, but has bought an expensive engraved watch for. And so, she's, for like 35 seconds is held up as maybe this is the killer, and then just no, we're gonna drop that.
It's almost as if for motivation, every single actor in the movie was handed an overdue credit card bill right before their scene began.
They just look.
And like, fuck! I thought I paid this.
Yeah.
All right, and action.
Yeah. Nobody in this movie is scared. They seem annoyed and angry and how dare this happen to me on Christmas Eve. Like even when things start going down and the bodies start stacking up, everybody's like, fuck, oh fuck, holy fuck, and it's just like, and it's like,
But no, go ahead. at the same time, they're helpless. And, that's kind of, again, the difference between a classic slasher movie. The girls usually get strong. They're like fighting back. There's or at least one girl who gets tough and kind of defends everybody, who kind of pulls everyone together. You have the Jamie Lee Curtis character in the original. They just had so much more strength, even when they were unappealing and slutty and whatever. They were 70s sorority girls all the way, but they still had a strength to them. These girls have no strength. There's literally scenes where they're just sitting on the floor crying, while they could be easily grabbing something and smacking these jerks on the head. It's really, this movie does not like its women. It's not a, you can tell the writer director, who by the way is the husband of Lee, the actress who plays Lee. That's his wife. So surprise, surprise, he could have gotten someone with a little more personality, but he got his wife, who has the exact same hair as everybody else, and the exact same makeup. But again, I don't get the impression that Mr. Morgan is, I don't know, I'm not really familiar with his other work, but is a real pro-female kind of guy. I don't know.
Right, and I feel like, part of me wants to be charitable and say like that this is maybe a deconstruction of slasher movies where, it's supposed to be a little, sly parody, and at the same time, like, well, no, maybe it's just badly written,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, because otherwise, I mean, there's just no reason to have these characters, again, who clearly can't stand to be in the same room together at the best of times, suddenly banding together and looking out for each other. It's just, oh, well, we're sisters. Oh, really? You could have fooled me. You all acted like you just met that night.
Right. And they split up anyway, and they're like, "Okay, we're all sisters. See ya."
Yeah, we're gonna go out and start the car.
Good luck, sister. There's no redeeming. Nobody has a redeeming quality. Nobody.
Oh, I don't know that's necessarily true. I mean, some of them are pretty and others are gorgeous. Lee Colvin, as we mentioned earlier, is Claire's older sister, and she's introduced into this movie as if she is a Bond villain. And she's yet another, as we said, a long line of red herrings that are neither fishy nor even the slightest bit pink. I would have loved it if they had just given us one fucking character who was introduced as evil, who turned out to be fucking evil.
I put on my note for Lee, I described her as another mysterious asshole.
Right.
Because, that's how Kyle could be described, a mysterious asshole. We don't know anything about him. All we know is he's a townie, and he keeps fucking these girls, but doesn't like them, and keeps, it makes that very abundantly clear that he does not like them. But, I'm sorry, no, Eve is not a mysterious asshole, but Eve is a mysterious weirdo.
Eve is a mysterious nothing.
Yeah, she appears on screen for 30 seconds.
She's the most interesting character in the movie. She's the only one. You sort of want to be like, okay, let's hear her story. She's in this bedroom. They
throw a bunch of red herring stuff at her. She has that weird art piece on the wall of her room that has a yellow eye. She has yellow gloves. She has all these things that point to her as like her, she's Agnes, she's Agnes, she's Agnes. And they don't follow through with any of it. No, and nor is the reveal that she ends up being dead like a big surprise, because it happens so quickly on the edge of somebody else dying.
But the problem is that her character is so so little on screen. I did not even realize that was her. Like when her head falls out of the car, I'm like, oh, I guess is that Claire?
I'm sorry. This is not true, Gina. She is the character with glasses.
Yeah, but she didn't have the glasses. She didn't have the glasses on when her head fell out of the car. The only way I knew was when what's her face, the heroine calls the cops and says, "Oh, it was Eve Agnew." I'm like, "It was? Okay, you say so. I'll take your word for it."
Well, again, It's the classic nerdy girl. She's very pretty. Without her glasses, with her hair down, she'd look just like everybody else. But for this in this little world, she's the ugly girl, and so they put black glasses on her face that makes her ugly. But yeah, so when her decapitated head rolls out, she doesn't have the glasses on, and again, she just you just can't tell her apart. Nobody here has a nose of any significance,
whittled down to nothing.
Oh my gosh.
So once God damn it, now it's happening to me. Once Lee is introduced to this, the machinations start to begin in earnest. So the first thing Lee does is notice that there's a present under the tree from Billy, not to Billy. And when they open it up, they discover that it's a baby doll without eyes, just like Billy's daughter, his daughter's sister. His sister, his daughter, his sister. It's a Chinatown situation, but stupid.
Yes.
And
wrapped in newspaper, that's the sign. That's the signal that it's Billy. He wraps everything in newspaper.
Yes, that's his MO, is that he wraps very well with newspaper, which is a legitimate skill. You're telling me people don't have character design. Here we go. Billy wraps really well with newspaper. I mean, that's something right there. This should be an Oscar contender.
This movie came out in 2006, correct?
Yes.
They're talking about, this newspaper is so old. It's from 1992. And I'm like, I was 20 in 1992. And I mean, I kept sort of conflating the original in my head, so I'm like, oh, okay, it's a bunch of old newspapers, so it's probably from like the 70s. I'm like, oh no, this is like something, and this goes back to my rant from the last episode, which in turn goes back into my rant from Friday the 13th, in which a very recent murder case is treated like a long ago folk legend, where they're like, sitting around the fire telling stories about old Billy Lenz back in the far off year of 92, and it's like most of your audience was like in high school or college in 1992.
You can hear my bones creak just thinking about it. So here we go. Everything's happening at once now. So the house loses power, and we start just slamming through plot threads. Kelly discovers that Kyle has made a sex tape with Megan, and then...
Is that who... I still don't understand that. Is it... Which one of them
it's
is he
so
supposed
lazy.
to be... Which one of them is he supposed to be, air quotes, dating?
Kelly. But he had previously made a sex tape with Megan, and then lets it fly in conversation when he starts trying to explain himself to her that a coworker stole his tapes, plural, that connotes that has more than one sex tape of him awkwardly looking in the distance while he's humping somebody to see if the camera's on or in focus. I don't know what he's trying to do.
So did Megan have it on her computer because she just saw that it was online?
Yeah, she had it earlier. When they introduced his character, he got a call from Megan, and she was mad at him.
Oh,
and it was basically, you're supposed to infer that she was saying, "What's the deal? I just found the sex tape with my sorority sister on it, you jerk," and that's what gives the motivation for Kyle to have killed her. If you absorb that, which was really hard to absorb that. I mean, you wouldn't really notice it. And then he says, I wasn't knocking over a 7-Eleven, as an excuse for like what a good guy he is. It's so, oh my God.
Yeah, this is a real Rudy Giuliani sort of thing. Like, I didn't kill anyone and I didn't rob anyone, so anything less than that, I'm an angel, baby. Like, no, that's not really how it works. That's not how morality breaks down. There's not a murder somebody, rob somebody, everything else category. There's other crimes, and this guy has committed sex crimes.
Yeah. I have a feeling what this movie was trying to do was kind of, again, call back to the original, where, the Jess in the original, this person Jess had, which was Olivia Hussey, if I'm pronouncing it right. She was pregnant and she needed to get an abortion. They threw in these very modern, for that time, sex issues, young women's issues. But again, the way it's handled in that movie is from the female perspective, and she's strong about it, and she's like, no, I'm getting this abortion, and there's nothing you can do about it. Here, they're like, how do we modernize this? What are young women's problems in the aught years? And we're like, sex tapes. But they don't handle it in a way that does anything for these women. Again, it's just the women being humiliated. It's very, this movie is just, the girls are bitches, and then the movie itself in its mega status is like cruel to them. It just doesn't give them any strength at all.
Now
it might hate humanity. The entire film might hate human beings.
It definitely does. Now, one thing that I couldn't help noticing is while Kyle and what's her face, again, I'm already forgetting, I'm instantly forgetting, Kelly, are arguing, we see a point of view of a movie poster with Peter Lorre, because what college students in the early 2000s were really into was Peter Lorre movies,
especially these girls. Oh, these girls would be all over Peter Lorre.
Were absolutely 1920s art film fans, 100%.
Absolutely.
Listen, college girls in the mid 2000s were into three things: crop top Henleys, bootcut jeans, Peter Lorre. That's everyone. So everyone was into it.
The more shallow you were, the more you were into Peter Lorre. For sure.
Exactly. So they show this poster, and they show a shot of a thumbtack being pushed out of a wall from the other side. Now, how thin are the walls in this house?
Oh,
that you could push out a thumbtack, which is about a quarter of an inch long, from a wall from the other side.
Not just this house, but Billy's child. Well, yeah, that's right. It's the same house. Duh. So Billy had just torn apart, at that point where he got that present and he had to get into the basement to see his father get murdered and buried. He had just torn that wall apart like it's paper. These walls, it's like 19th century Japanese, paper walls. I mean, the whole house is practically made out of paper. It really is. I mean, you see that over and over again through this movie.
Remember in Raising Arizona when Nicolas Cage and John Goodman get into that fight, and he just keeps punching every wall. His fist goes right through it, and he throws it through the bathroom wall, and it just goes through paper. That's what this house is like. It's constructed like a Super 8 motel. It's which is how I don't know how anybody didn't know that Kyle was seeing other women at the sorority house. I mean, how did you keep anything private from anybody? I mean, you sneeze and the whole house would have had to have heard it. Yeah. But in not just the thumbtack scene defies all normal Earth physics, but then we have a scene in which who's the really bitchy girl, the drunk one? What is her name?
No idea.
Lauren. Okay, so she starts just explosively vomiting everywhere. And is it Michelle Trachtenberg's character who takes her to the bathroom?
I believe it is Melissa takes Lauren up to the shower, and that's where we discover that Billy is definitely back in the house now and has dug multiple peeping holes under the penny tile in the bathroom.
Well, he would have to. How is he putting the tiles back?
Right.
He pokes it. He pokes the tiles up. They flip like tiddlywinks.
How do you fit under a floor? I mean,
they're basically these characters at this point have become, and I'm pretty sure Heather in our last episode kept comparing him to Toombs from the X-Files, where he could basically flatten himself, but Toombs was literally an alien. This is just and again, I watched. To be honest, I watched the first half a month ago. I forgot why he is yellow. It was something he was eating.
No, he has some sort of liver deficiency.
Oh, okay.
He's born that way, yeah.
So, but that makes him able to skitter around like a crab and
Yeah, it
flatten.
makes you
And not only
squishy.
he can do it, Agnes can do it. And it's
He's like Sponge Pants, square. Fuck.
SpongeBob
SpongeBob
SquarePants.
SquarePants. Yeah, he can become any shape he needs.
The memory of Steven Hillenburg.
Yes, this is the exact comparison I know he would have wanted if he were still among us.
I mean, at this point, Billy, and I said this to you before we started recording, Patrick. He looks like a vampire lizard. his eyes are like this, like, you know, again, like they look like a vampire's eyes. He's like glowing yellow, and he's like flattening himself out and walking around on all fours, like he's some sort of like just weird, like alien creature. And they're super strong, which I don't like. I mean, one of them was able to lift a man up by his head into an attic crawl space. I mean,
but there's not a lot in Kyle's head to hold him down.
No, but he also has
like gravity's on your side.
You know, he probably has about 175 pounds of body hanging off of his head. I mean, you know, there's just so much. There's so much of this. It's just like, you know, why and for what purpose? And it's just, you know, it gets just so weird and out there. But it doesn't really. It doesn't. There's no payoff in how weird it gets. It's just like, it's very much a, well, let's try this and that, and then let's try this other thing, and you know, I won't get yet to the reveal that really doesn't make any sense. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, it's just you know, any you know, idea that Billy was supposed to be, you know, at least physically a human being, I'm no longer sure about this.
Well, you know, technically, it's not the worst idea to have someone with jaundice. I mean, there are diseases. I think there's like Gilbert's disease where you could have jaundice pretty much your whole life. So you have. My mother had jaundice at one point, and you are yellow as a Simpson. You really are. You're incredibly, you know, shockingly yellow. And it is very surreal to see someone with jaundice. So it's not the worst idea, and your eyes do get yellow also, and, you know, kind of weirdly colored. And yet, he's still boring looking. Like, how did they not somehow make him more interesting looking? I don't know. There's something about his haircut. There's something about just the casting, his face. He's so boring. There's nothing.
I think someone ordered a Brad Dourif type. And they're like,
really screwed up.
We know a guy who's got Brad Dourif's haircut. And he's like, that's good enough for me. And they assumed that he would bring a Brad Dourif level of performance to this. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but he does not.
No.
They somehow screwed even that up. You know, it's so simple. It's so simple. There are so many interesting looking people out there. And that's, again, we're not even getting to the ultimate of this complaint, which we will get to soon.
Yeah, let's push through here. All these things are various happening. We've got 3 girls who are missing. Heather is investigating 2 disappearances of note, one being Eve and the other being her cornpone accent, which mysteriously disappears. Then Lauren pukes and Melissa takes her to the bathroom. We discover that there's a bunch of very close to the surface peeping holes available underneath the floor, which would make the floor very difficult to stand on without falling through. That's another element of physics that is difficult.
And I need to ask, how is he just going? Is he just going in later and just putting the tiles back?
Lauren does step on a tile that is out of place and just discounts it out of hand because she's so drunk and out of it.
So wait, are we suggesting that this is the first time he's done this?
No, there's no way he could have dug that many holes that quickly. He must have had this available to him when he was crawling through the crawl space like Bad Ronald for all those years.
And then we get the butt shot. You know, we had to have that. We had to have a nice little girly nude shot, even though, you know, it's 2006. And I don't know, do people really even expect these things in movies anymore?
I only want it if I'm going to get it both ways. If I'm going to see butt, I want to see a nice pair of buns on top of it. We were denied this a lot in the last Friday the 13th movie where we just didn't get to see a lot of dude nudity. I want parody. If you're going to do it,
right.
do it all the way across the board and give everyone some eye candy already.
Right.
But of course, this cast is entirely female dominated, and for whatever reason, they decided they wanted to put Oliver Hudson, a very attractive man, in 6 layers of clothing. He's walking around this well-heated house in an amount of clothes that makes him look like Fat Albert.
And apparently stifles his acting ability into submission.
I don't know that this movie carries anyone well. Everyone here has probably done, and I have seen many of them, do better things elsewhere. Oliver Hudson was much better telling my dumb jokes on ABC last spring than he was in this movie. So this is this is a low point for almost everyone involved, with the exception of maybe the one guy playing Billy. This is about as good as it got for him.
Yeah.
So everyone's going everywhere. The lights are out in the house. Heather finds a bunch of old news articles about Billy and Eve's closet and 2 baby doll eyes. So that connects it to that present. So everyone is now suspecting Eve of something. Lee is searching the house for Claire. We know this because, as Gina noted earlier, she can't stop saying it out loud. She does get surprised by a Santa Claus decoration and utters the phrase, "Fuck you, Santa Claus." And I like that one. I think there are elements in here where you can really tell that this was aimed at being a dark comedy. And then someone in the Weinstein Company, whose name I refuse to utter, as if he has no nose and slithers around, they decided, no, this has got to be a straight slasher. All people care about are people dying. And it's like they don't understand how movies work. And so they just stripped all of the interesting parts, and the oddities that are left are so odd they seem out of place. But I think that was the point, or perhaps I'm giving them too much credit. That's the only thing I can figure out here.
I think you're giving them too much credit.
I still think there's time for a class action lawsuit. Now, I know you guys discussed this last episode, but the trailer contained several scenes that are not in the movie. That was Harvey Weinstein requested those scenes. Girl under the lake, frozen, some chick falling off the roof into some kind of Christmas thresher. That was not in the movie. And I paid $3, you guys. $3 to watch this.
That you are not getting back.
To watch this movie. and I think I have grounds. I don't think it's, I mean, I know Mr. Weinstein's not having the best year, and I don't really mind making it slightly worse for him. So class action suit, anybody's interested, go visit me at the Shining 237 Facebook page. Let's get this going.
Let's file for your 11 cents settlement.
That's right. Once the lawyer takes his cut, that's what you're going to get back. But you'll at least be able to kick a Weinstein in the nuts a little bit, and there are less noble pursuits. That's for sure.
Bait and switch. That was bait and switch, what he did.
Well, I mean, technically, let's get into technicalities here. I am a person who helps TV networks and movie studios make fake things that aren't in the shows that they're advertising. They're called special shoots. But the point of them primarily is so that you can only use so much footage from an actual show. You have to save something for the people who decide to tune in. So if you're going to do something extra, you shoot something just outside of that. And it's rarer for movies to use special shoot things, but these are either completely different outtakes of the movie, like they reshot the entire thing, or they did shoot additional footage that has nothing to do with it to jazz it up. Meanwhile, at one point, a woman gets her entire face taken off by an ice skate. That's something. That's something. It's not nothing.
Right.
You could sell a movie on that, and they decided not to do that. So there you go.
Yeah.
There's no lake lady here.
No, we should do a spin-off movie, The Lady in the Lake. Black Christmas 2006 Part 2, The Lady in the Lake.
Yeah. 2.0. Or 2.5, really. Dana thinks she sees Eve under the house at one point when she's out there smoking, so she decides to investigate. And then someone wearing Mrs. Lenz's nightgown attacks her. Dana gets in one good shot to this person's arm with a garden tool, but it's that very same implement that gets buried in the back of her head. R.I.P.D. Dana. Someone was able to make fetch not happen.
I was going to say, we literally hardly knew ye.
I could not tell her apart from another cast member. And I've seen both of these people on television many times. That's super weird.
Also, if they wanted to do this a little kitschy, a little tongue-in-cheek, why can't those pajamas have, like, little snowmen on it, Like, again, they chose, like, the most boring red pajamas for the killer. Have little penguins on it. Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be sort of winky, little Santa heads? I don't know. Boring red pajamas. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Well, I mean, that psychiatric hospital probably doesn't have the most festive pajama selection for everyone.
Oh, is that Billy? Is that Billy?
Well, Billy is wearing the red pajamas, and then this other person whom we at one point the film alludes to this is all being done by one person, but that is physically impossible. So this is the moment where it establishes there are two killers. One person with long hair who has let their roots grow out a lot, and then Billy, who is yellow. So this person is decidedly not yellow and has very long hair, and puts that claw tool into the back of Dana's head and then scuttles off.
And have you talked about the snow that looks like oatmeal?
We haven't really gotten to that. That's really highlighted when
I have things to say about this.
Or confetti. It looks like confetti.
It looks faker than fuck. I mean, it is. That is made.
They look like they're inside a snow globe.
Yes.
And maybe that was on purpose. I don't know if that was a stylistic choice. That would have been kind of.
You're
funny.
Giving the film too much credit.
I'm trying to find something.
You're so nice. You're so kind.
I'm trying to find something positive to say about this movie, and all I can come up with is that the kills are pretty good, if not, again, defying all laws of physics, and they are absolutely 110% dedicated to the Christmas theme, and that's it. That's all. And that's why I'm thinking, well, maybe it's supposed to look kind of like fake snow you throw in a tree. I don't know. Probably not.
It's one thing to have fake snow, because listen, it's filming outdoors or in a real spot is difficult. It was obviously filmed inside of a studio. I get that you're going to use fake snow, but for insert shots, use snow, because this looks too obvious in HD on my giant television. Not to brag.
Yeah, I mean, but real snow is wet. It's clumpy. It doesn't look like detergent flakes. Like they're just like sweeping the snow off the windshield like it's powdered sugar. There's it's nothing. And this is what made me so honestly angry about to kind of jump ahead. They go outside. They open a car door. Eve's head tumbles out, which again I didn't know that was supposed to be Eve until someone said something. So they go in, they call the police. Oh, there's someone been murdered, and we have 3 people missing. The cops are like, well, the snow is too bad. We'll get there in about 2 hours. And this is where I come back to, where the hell are they? This is supposed to be a college campus. Is it not? Is this out?
It's a college campus on the moon.
Is this up in the Rockies? And let us point out, if you've not seen this movie, if there's more than 4 inches of snow on the ground, I will eat my hat.
Yes, I know.
I mean, they're just walking back and forth from the house to their cars like it's nothing, And the cops are like, "Whoa, we can't get out to this house to investigate this severed head found on your front lawn because there's just too much snow on the ground."
You could blow on the ground and see the grass. That's how thin the snow is on the ground. There's no way. I mean, it's not even half an inch of snow. I mean, it's covering. It's snow that has covered the ground. There is no depth. No depth.
I mean, you Susan, you live in New York. This wouldn't even slow down the train service, and the train service is already terrible. It would not make it any worse.
No.
And the cops are like, well, what are you gonna do? It's the blizzard of aught-6, you know.
Yeah, the tree limbs are down.
You know, we have a down tree in Mrs. Johnson's yard. We have to get to that before we get to the severed head found in your front lawn.
And she doesn't even tell the cop that the head's been severed. She's like, "Yeah, we have a dead girl." You know, I think you would capture the police's attention if you mentioned that she was decapitated. Like, all she
says, "We're sure she was murdered."
Yeah,
You wouldn't say that. You'd say, "We found a head."
A head rolled out of a car to our feet.
But then it ruins the surprise for the police. Like, you got to give them something. You make them drive out in a snowstorm. They got to see something cool, man.
The one thing I thought was so another inexplicable choice in this movie is that there are never any cops. Not once. Like, even at the end, when you're down to the final girl and she's in the hospital, there are no police. And I realize that it's Christmas Eve. And you know, everybody, you know, has a night off, which now, I mean, I worked in the hotel industry for about 6 years. You know, nothing is closed on Christmas Eve anymore. No. I mean, there's no reason that hospital is as understaffed as it is.
God,
there's no reason that there's not a single, not even one cop posted outside of her hospital room, where she's the sole survivor. Well, besides Lee, up to a certain point, of a mass murder. There's nobody on duty to watch her, because again, it's Christmas Eve. What do you want? You know?
And again, going back to the original, they did have a whole police presence in it, and they used that as a little bit of a comedy outlet. They had one goofy police guy, and they had one tough cop.
Right, and that was like one of the best parts of the movie.
It was
Margot Kidder just going back and forth with this cop who didn't know what the word fellatio meant.
Yes, yes, exactly. It gives you material. Like, you have those kinds of you mix it up a little bit. You have more material to work with. And then, like, when they were, the cops have to trace the phone call. That's a really exciting part of that movie, where he's like, it's, of course, again, it's a 74, so they didn't have the technology. So he had to physically go through this whole building trying to trace the call physically with this telephone equipment. And it's really a wonderful kind of suspenseful thing, but that's not gonna happen in this movie. You're not gonna get anything.
No,
like that.
I mean, it would make more sense if they had already gone on like their winter trip to like a ski lodge, or I don't know, a closed down summer camp in New Jersey, maybe. But I mean, there is another sorority house across the street.
Yeah, they never attempt to go to that house.
They never
with the lights on.
They never open the windows and say, "Hey, help! There's somebody here trying to kill us." They don't think to group together and go the 50 yards.
Right. How far could they be from campus? I mean, why do you have a sorority house unless it's to live conveniently somewhere near the campus? Like, that's why they are made, It's housing for the university.
Yeah, the sense of isolation that this movie is trying to create is nonsensical and extremely unwarranted. I did not feel that there was no escape for these characters at any point. I did not.
There is escape, but they refused to use any method that would allow them to do it.
There is no reason they couldn't just. I mean, I get the whole, well, what if Claire comes back and then Claire can leave the house. I mean, if she goes to the house and she sees, oh hey, nobody's here. She could call, or she could get back in her car and drive across the street to the other sorority house. I did not
leave a note.
There was no sense that they were really trapped. It's like, you could leave anytime you want to.
And they just leave Drunky by herself in her room as if that's a safe place to be. Let's just leave Drunky passed out in her bed and not worry about her. We're just going to not worry about her.
She's fine. We're going to wait around for the characters we're pretty much sure are already dead.
Well, to get to that, so Mrs. Mack and Heather decide they're not going to wait for the police. They're going to get inside of that retro station wagon outside and drive away to safety. Mrs. Mack attempts to de-ice her windshield with a snow brush. For Christ's sake, I'm from Glendale, California. You do not clear a windshield that is iced up with a snow brush. You use the scrapey part on the other side.
And then inside the car, Heather appears to encounter a scanner.
Yes, Billy scans her.
Something in that car explodes like a watermelon.
Yes.
She goes pop. Her head's like a fruit gusher commercial inside of that. We don't know what happens to her, but it is very explosive. This sends Mrs. Mack back in disbelief so hard she slams into the garage door, which dislodges an icicle, which drops from, I'd say, 4 feet over her head, but it goes through her skull.
And it's not that big. I mean, come on. This is like the lamest death. What were they? I cannot fathom the writing here. They have a killer right there in front of her, inches away. She doesn't even go in. She could have just tried to go in and save the girl and get killed somehow. But no, she steps back and an icicle falls on her head. And,
she's also angry because a girl from the South doesn't know how to de-ice a windshield, which, you don't have to be mad about that. I mean, I don't know that I would expect somebody who grew up in the South to know how to de-ice a windshield.
There is a version of this movie that is like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, in which all the people dying are ultimately dying by their own hand. And that would be vastly more interesting than what we see here, because that is straight out of Final Destination, which Glenn Morgan should know well because he helped co-write Final Destination, several of them at this point, before he directed this film. So I can understand him wanting to, draft on that ability, but he's not his partner when it comes to directing that stuff, and therefore it just seems silly because an icicle falling off of a rooftop onto a person is not going to go through their skull when it's only 4 feet away from them. That is just physically impossible.
And if you watch it over and over, which I'm doing right now as we speak, it's not even sharp when you look up at it. And then it's super sharp when it's gone through her head. Again, the physics in this movie, it's, pure magic. If only they had run with some kind of magical element so that you'd at least, feel like it made some magical sense. But no, the physics in this movie are just, it gets better. It just gets better.
But how did, I have a question for both of you. How did Billy get into this car? The two women had difficulty getting into the car because the ice had frozen the door shut. So what did Billy do to gain entrance to this vehicle? Did he go through the tailpipe? Because he's yellow like a banana?
I was actually going to say he just squeezed himself, into the tailpipe.
Banana in the tailpipe?
Right, the door would not have been sticking at that point because somebody had already opened it and closed it.
But he sneaks in from the other side. Oh my God, none of this movie makes sense. I'm really wondering why I liked it so much when I saw it in the movie theater.
Oh, you saw it.
I may have been drunk.
I was going to say, I gave this movie my all. I tried to be as charitable as I could be, and there was some interesting seeds planted that they did nothing with.
There's a more interesting movie inside this movie, but we can't critique it. We can only observe that it could have been better. But all the elements that would have made it a better film are inside of it. They're just not allowed to show us it, including 2 scenes that apparently might have been in the movie or might not have, and they decided to put in the trailer. We hear Mrs. Mack scream. This causes Kelly and Lee to run outside to try and find her. but they can't get out to where she is because her body is blocking the gate. And then they go back in the house. I can't even remember why.
That's what's happening there. It's, another thing about this movie is I like a fast-paced movie. I mean, that's one of the positives is the fast-paced movie. But in some places, the editing is so rapid, it's a little too rapid. And you're just like, wait, what? What's going on? You can't quite make out what the actions are. It's not holding the camera long enough, or it's not everything's so dark you can't. I had no idea what was going on there.
Their screams cause Melissa to leave Drunky alone in her room. But before she can get down the stairs, Billy version 2 attacks her with a plastic bag. She's able to elbow her way out of that one. And then she finds her way back to her room, beats the hell out of Billy version 2 with a ski pole, but still can't make her way out the window. And that's when Billy version 2 picks up an ice skate and just slings it at this human being, and the ice skate slices off the entirety of Melissa's face.
It's like an
or the back of her skull, because we see her face later on.
Her head.
I think she's scalped. Yeah,
that's right.
Because it just reminded me of the the Road Warrior when he has the bladed boomerang. He just like flings this thing at her, and it just from like 5 feet away, which like how much thrust are you getting on this? And it just takes off the back of her head like it's nothing.
Well, the power of Christmas has given them Hercules-like powers, apparently.
I expected to hear like a fairy dust sound or something like that. he just like, it should. It could have. I suppose it could have hurt her if you hit in just the right way. But there's again the physics of this are impossible. It would have to kind of hit and then go up.
And her blades would have to be so sharp. Like razor sharp, which most skate blades, yeah.
You're playing.
You can walk on them on carpet.
If you play professional hockey, then yeah, your blades are going to be pretty sharp. There are some pretty horrific, videos of players getting injured by other players' blades. But that's professional hockey. I don't think Melissa.
What we don't know about Melissa is that she plays wing for the Detroit Red Wings.
But yeah, so it's just like and we started with we haven't gotten to Kyle showing up yet. That comes momentarily. Just this shot later of after he kills Kyle.
We have to get through Lauren's death now.
Oh,
because
yeah. Do we have to get through Lauren's death? It's just
God.
No.
Listen, needless to say, somehow Lauren gets molested in her stupor. Which she's okay with for the first minute and a half, and not so okay with in the last 30 seconds.
I don't want to ponder what's actually supposed to be going on.
No, I think she doesn't know. She's not aware of what's happening at all.
Yeah.
She's as if you would just sleep through something like that. But
But how would the person get all the way up into the bed and still remain? Under the covers, which isn't an unscary idea. But I don't understand why I keep seeing this person's face through silk sheets, and then they disappear.
Yeah, she rolls over and he's like gone. Again, he's a person, but he's also a ghost and kind of looks like a vampire, but is also sort of like inhuman at the same time.
He might be Morbius. I think we may have found a Morbius, everyone.
It's like lightning speed. She looks up and he's not there, and then boom, he's on top of her. It's just physics. No physics.
And this killer, whichever one it is, grabs a crystal unicorn and manages to stab her, apparently through the eye. But here's the other thing. At a certain point, we're going to skip ahead just slightly. At a certain point, we see that the killer has been collecting eyeballs that are still strung together by the tendons or muscles that they might be attached to.
But then, he kills Kyle later, and then just snacks on his eyeballs like they're grapes.
Yeah,
he just pops them in his mouth, bites it, goop flies out of his mouth because this movie isn't gross enough,
What you don't know is if you eat enough eyeballs, you become super strong.
Is that what
and
it is?
people won't tell you this because then everyone will start eating eyeballs.
Well, what if you're like me and you have like really poor vision? Does that if someone were to eat my eyes, would they still become strong or would it be like a little weaker?
Just not as strong because
Okay.
you really want to get somebody with 20/20 vision.
Okay.
I
might
want
be
to be able
saved
to
then because I'm almost legally blind. So
That's what you should wear glasses and it throws off the eyeball thieves.
Killing people and then gouging their eyes out is superfluous. Wouldn't a better and more scary movie be one where he just gouges their eyes out and leaves them living? I mean, doesn't that sort of give you the creeps a little bit more? I mean, this is just, they're already dead. So
it's not even that he's gouging them; he's tearing them out. Which I'm not sure how you do that and manage to have that handy little cat toy yarn string going on between the middle of them. I mean, I'm pretty sure your eyes aren't. I mean, I'm not a biology student. I've never studied anatomy, but that's okay because the people who made this movie have not either. I don't think your eyes are connected to each other.
I think they're optical nerves. I think they're nerves.
Yeah, they're not connected by one single vein or like a thread that when you pull them out you can play like those remember those knocking balls like the kids used to play with where you kind of they bang next to each other and go back and forth. I don't think you can do
like
that with
the
eyeballs.
executive's toy that's on a person's desk.
Oh my god! If
1980s.
only there was a scene where he was just kind of chilling in his house with like one of those things just made out of a series of eyeballs. See, you
and again, a better movie.
The three of us are working together to make a better version of this movie. You could have Susan's suggestion of just him gouging people's eyes out and just leaving them to suffer, and still have a scene where he's got the eyeballs lined up for an executive desk toy,
twirling them like a pocket watch.
That's the thing about this movie is it suffers a little bit from sameness when it comes to the deaths because they all have to lead to eyeballlessness, and so it's a lot of stabbing eye sockets and
the eyes thing, I feel
suffocating people.
I feel like the eyes thing, he clearly has an obsession with eyes, but we really don't ever find out why.
Right.
It's just, this is his thing. But usually, if a killer in a movie has, a very specific, MO in what he does to his victims, there's usually some vague explanation.
And yet this movie spends so much time telling us shit about this guy. There's that whole scene in the psychiatric hospital where the guard's like, "Hey, hold on, movie. Let me tell you about another movie." And then Kyle wanders in to this movie and goes, "Hey, wait a second, let's pump the brakes. Let me tell you about another movie." And they have whole sequences where they tell you all this backstory that ends up not mattering all that much because there's no clues there.
Right. They have plenty of room to work with, and they didn't use it efficiently.
Oh my God, where are we up to?
Kyle shows up after
yes,
Lauren is killed.
Yes, he's the shadowy figure in the background, and unfortunately, no one kills Kyle right then and there because they would be justified.
Yes,
I'd be better off. But they decide when they hear something in the attic, they have to investigate. And Kyle goes, "I'll go first," and everyone else in the movie goes, "Good," and he gets up the ladder.
And all they have with them, they know there's a killer up there, and they have a fork for roasting marshmallows. That Lay's still got that fork for roasting marshmallows, which is like you could bend it, like it's nothing.
But she lost the marshmallow. She did take that off.
She did eat the marshmallow. Someone ate the marshmallow, And then he kind of whips out this little tiny knife. And there's this whole, they don't have a cleaver in the kitchen. They don't have a hammer or something. Pots and pans would be better weapons than what these people are carrying. They have a whole house of cooking utensils. But no, they have a little marshmallow fork and they have a tiny little knife. That's what
It's
they're
a
going.
It's a butterfly knife straight out of my 5th grade dreams.
Yes, that's what they're going up there to this big meaty invincible killer.
This movie must have been sponsored in some way by American Outfitters because it spends so much time looking at Kyle's boot-cut jeans that I'm like, holy fuck, I get it. He's wearing jeans. Kyle opens up the attic door only to be snatched by Billy or Billy version 2, I can't tell you, who wraps up his head in plastic and then yanks him up like he weighs 15 ounces. Again, eyeball eaten strength, I guess, is what happens here.
Or as if that thin plastic somehow helps them, pull these people up. They use green plastic bags. Now, one of the magical things of the original movie was, of course, the girl sitting in the rocking chair with the plastic bag over her head. But what was so scary about that was that you could see her face through the bag. Here, it's all opaque bags. There's no horror to it. You don't see their faces. I don't understand that choice. That choice has been bothering me through the whole movie. Why would you use green Glad bags when you could be using, like there's these nice translucent where you see these horrified faces suffocated under the plastic,
I think the reason is mainly technical, so they can do all these head puncture gags using a mannequin where you don't see it's a mannequin. It's to try to sell the illusion of all the head stabs that happen, like this one to Kyle when he gets stabbed in the head with a unicorn ornament again. That fucking unicorn ornament at this point has to be dull. It's gone through so many skulls.
Speaking of questionable choices, we do discover at this point that there are actually 2 killers.
Yes.
The other one is Agnes, who is very obviously a man.
Yes.
I mean, he doesn't speak in a high-pitched voice other than having long hair, which might be a wig. It kind of looks a little bit like a wig. Or maybe it probably is a wig on the actor, but I mean, it kind of just looks like a killer wearing a bad wig to make him look like a woman. He's very obviously a man. And at this point, I stopped the movie for a second and I'm like, huh. This is puzzling.
It brings into question everything we've been told. Either everyone has been telling this story wrong, or Mrs. Lenz had this baby and decided she wanted a daughter and not another son, and therefore raised Agnes as...
No, because with the time that they show Mrs. Lenz being murdered, Agnes is a little girl. I mean, she's like supposed to be like 11 or 12. She's a girl, and she does not have blonde hair. So I don't know why.
It is the ultimate fruition of what we've been talking about all along: bad casting. And you look at like Hereditary, where they found this very interesting little girl who fit in with, she had a slightly odd look, so you knew there was something slightly off about her. There are plenty of women they could have chosen who looked inbred. There are plenty of character actor women out there. There's 300 million people in this country. They couldn't find a woman who looked odd and who looked sort of inbred, who would have been happy to have accepted the $100,000, whatever they would pay her to play this role,
and just play a really hammy villain. Have fun with it. And they just cast a man.
And it's so rare to have a female slasher in a movie, and they can't even allow that fresh take. The idea of a female slasher in this movie, which would have turned the movie a little bit on its head. No, they couldn't even take advantage of that aspect of it. They had to cast a man.
There's a point that I got so confused that I thought I was having a stroke because
we still don't know that you haven't.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my arms like kind of tingly here to be
class action lawsuit.
Exactly, because Kelly's the heroine. Yes, Kelly.
Yes.
I don't know.
She stabs who she thinks is Billy because he's a man, in the eye with I believe the unicorn statue again.
It's the fork from the fireplace.
Oh, it's
the marshmallow fork. The marshmallow
fork.
He air quotes just pulls the fork out, and the effects in the scene are so bad that he looks like he's wearing a mask. And then she says something. She calls him Agnes. And then he says again in a male voice, not I mean, if anything, he sounds a little bit like he's trying to sound like a kid, but it's definitely a male voice saying, I have my daddy here, and I'm like, wait, what? Is this the dad from earlier in the movie? The one that wait, no, she's talking about Billy. That's supposed to be Agnes? And I'm like, and I just like the look on my face. I mean, I just furrowed brow, jaw slightly askew. I was like, what?
What would this movie have been like?
This is supposed to be Agnes.
What would this movie have been like if instead of Billy killing off all of these women, he broke out of the psychiatric hospital to stop his sister daughter from killing all the women inside the house?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Agnes was going to show up at some point. I mean, yes. Obviously, either she was going to be, Eve, or she was going to be Lee, or she was going to be some other heretofore unrevealed character. She was going to show up at some point and probably be the killer or one of the killers. But this is just done in such a weird and nonsensical way, and it's just, again, I honestly had to stop for a second. I was like that gif of the woman looking at the diagram and like trying to figure out what's happening here, and it's just like, okay, there's no need for a slasher movie to be this confusing.
The other lost opportunity is, supposedly what we're supposed to, I think, get from the ending of this is that she'd been living in that attic this whole time and nobody knew about it. And because you see dolls, you see kind of weird little odd children's playthings around the attic that I assume were supposed to belong to her. And I think we're supposed to assume that she had been living in there, and Eve had some connection, that was her room. And I don't know, there was some strange connection there, which we never understand. But you could have really explored that, this little strange attic apartment this woman had been living in all these years. It would have been more, could have been a very interesting little tableau, in this movie. And nope. It's like just total confusion.
It wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to have the hider in the house thing from the original Black Christmas, but it also wants to have an expansive backstory that you have to memorize very quickly in order to understand the great reveal at the end. So it's nutty. I think the room in the attic was actually Billy's at one point, and she, after being at the orphanage, then resides in Billy's old room, right, and hides in the crawl spaces like her son or her daddy brother.
Yes.
Oh, God. Anyways, the whole fucking place is filled to the brim with candles, like a Catholic church worth of candles. And somewhere in this melee, Lee ends up falling through the floor of the attic onto the second floor.
Fortuitously.
And then we see a bunch of life model casts of the rest of the cast with all their eyes gouged out. And then the entire place starts to catch on fire slowly but surely. And
I was going to say, here's where the edits go nuts. I mean, they just edit, and the edits are lightning fast, and you just cannot keep track of really what's going on. It's very confusing. But Kelly, is it Kelly? I don't even know.
Kelly.
She falls. She falls through the wall, slips down quite a ways, and then at the same time, Billy has slipped through the wall. So the two of them have slipped through the wall.
Yeah, Agnes falls first, then she falls to like the second floor, and then Billy is crawling down from the top. So she's getting sandwiched by psycho people.
Suddenly this 2-story house has grown to about 5 stories somehow.
It's some sort of Matrix fight is occurring inside of this house in the crawl space, and Lee has to find a spot to bust it open And so finally, she finds a space in the laundry room and pulls Kelly out before either Agnes or Billy can reach her in full. But at the same time, all the fire that happened in the attic has slowly but surely been pulled into the crawl space via this string of lights. And this is meant to be sort of a Final Destination-like thing where we see that, okay, that's connected to that, and those string of lights is connected to the pram, and the pram is connected to the burning Christmas tree, so that when we see each element slide down into the crawl space, we know that the fire is getting closer. But it's edited like a crazy person has taken over an Avid machine, and they're just touching buttons. It's like my son when he was 2 in an elevator, just touching buttons.
Yes. And we forgot to mention Eve's head at the top of the Christmas tree, by the way, which they show like 4 times because that's the money shot of the whole movie, I think, is Eve's head.
But they put the glasses back on, so you know it's Eve.
Glasses. But you know, Harvey Weinstein was like, I want to see that 4 times, no less than 4 times.
I pay for those glasses. I want to see those glasses.
It's the money shot. It's like sort of the only really kind of, you know, beautifully shocking. And they couldn't even shoot it from another angle. They just repeat the exact same shot 4 times.
Yeah, I feel like this was completely re-edited by somebody else at some point, because it just doesn't make any narrative sense at all. But that's not to say that when they shot it, it didn't look good. So it's real confusing. And here's another example of this. We don't know whether or not it's Kelly or Lee grabs this very convenient plastic jug of paint thinner and starts splashing it everywhere now that the on-fire Christmas tree has entered into the crawl space. So in the hopes that when they leave, Billy and Agnes will burn to death. And then we cut to a hospital.
And what do we got?
This is
another wisecracking morgue attendant.
I looked at the clock at this point and go, 15 fucking minutes are left in this?
This ending did not exist, right? The movie had actually ended with the house, and I believe this is, again, Mr. Weinstein saying, no, we need a whole new ending. Is that right?
Oh, we can't have 2 women survive. We got to cut that in half.
Yes.
And we need another wisecracking morgue attendant because the audience loves wisecracking morgue attendants.
Oh man, he consumes food, he drinks,
I was gonna say,
he swears, he's everything we want in a corner.
I was gonna say he's drinking eggnog because it's Christmas Eve.
But he hears a noise coming from one of the body bags, and this is where it is revealed that these people who should have burned alive have just been playing possum inside of these bags. Not only is Billy still alive, but Agnes is still alive. What are they getting out of these eyeballs?
Go
ahead.
Sorry, the paramedics. So first, they would have removed the bodies from the house, right? So paramedics brought them to a hospital where you would have had a doctor examine the bodies and determine them dead, and then brought them into the mortuary where you would have had these guys, the morticians or the what's the technical term?
Medical examiners.
Medical examiners. They went through probably 3 layers of doctors. 2 people, and they're both. They all of those people mistakenly thought they were dead.
Well, I mean, as we can, as has been a running theme, I guess you want to call it that. It's Christmas Eve. Nobody's got time for this shit. Nobody's got time. You got like you Charlie Brown Christmas to watch. You don't have time to properly investigate the murder of 8 people.
That's right. I got to go home and assemble my daughter's bike. I don't have time to determine whether or not this obviously dead body is dead.
Just throw these carcasses on the table. They're fine. They're not going anywhere.
See, that would have been funny, though. That would have been actually a really funny scene if you had that. If you had them like, yeah, they seem dead. Go ahead, take them away. That would have been, it would have made sense. It would have been funny, and it would have, not made the ending. I mean, from here on in, from the moment you get to the hospital to the end of the movie, it is just nonstop stupidity. I mean, it is just layers and layers and layers of, oh my God, what?
It's a lot of how stupid do you think this audience is?
Because I don't understand the point of the swapping out the present from Claire to Lee, which was a pen, if I'm remembering correctly. Or was it a watch?
It was a watch.
It was a watch. So that wasn't swapped. Oh my God. This movie's confused the living fuck out of me. Okay. So I wrote like, why did Billy or Agnes rewrap this fucking this present? Pardon me.
How do they know what room she's staying in?
Why? And then they take out Kelly because she has an X-ray, and then Lee stays
in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, she has an
X-ray because the doctor's not going to be in tomorrow.
Little midnight X-ray.
Yeah, what?
That's how it works.
What hospital are you going to have the doctor, and B? Well, he's not going to be here tomorrow. I mean, do you have...
Nobody will be in this hospital to take any X-rays. This major city hospital.
Yeah, it's
going to be run by the janitor.
It's a campus hospital, but there are people, as Kyle pointed out many times, there are townies. So people live in this town and might need access to medical care. And you're telling me that this hospital is so understaffed that they don't even notice when one of their patients presses the emergency call button.
And yet they have the carolers.
But they have carolers at midnight.
The caroling industry is fine in this storm. Carolers are just like, there's the whole town, they base their industry on caroling. And obviously it's...
Yeah, I guess they managed to get through that that dreadful Little House on the Prairie snowstorm eventually. They managed to get to the hospital.
Well, that's the thing. If you don't make those caroling rounds in a caroling-based economy, you're going to be on food stamps by summer. Right. It's like Jaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like Billy, is it Billy or Ag? Which one of them kills Lee?
Agnes kills Lee as posing as Kelly.
Agnes kills Lee. And then Kelly comes back. She realizes that something is amiss, and of course, in this high quality hospital, they have a broken door that they don't bother fixing. They
call it out in the most obvious manner possible. They might as well have a superimposed arrow, like in student bodies, that would point out these things. So you go ding, ding, ding.
Eventually, she manages, and again, this is very much testing the audience's goodwill, in that she manages to flee the room with Billy chasing after her. I'm sorry, she kills Agnes with the
defibrillator.
I guess she just gives her a seizure.
There is one thing about that defibrillator scene that must be mentioned. There's a reason why doctors and nurses yell "clear" before they touch a body with a defibrillator, because it emits electricity. So if you are, lying on top of the person that you are hitting with that defibrillator, you too will be shocked by the electricity that comes out.
I have to admit,
it does not stop at the house coat.
I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised. I thought they would go the extra mile of just making Agnes's head explode. I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know that.
Why did they hold back?
Yeah. In a movie that offers very little restraint anywhere else. I mean, I don't know if one's head would explode if a defibrillator was applied to it. I'm thinking not, but really, we've already established several times that this movie does not care about physics or logic. But
yeah, why get real now?
So she flees the room with Billy chasing after her. She runs into a cart. The guy operating the cart just does nothing. He nobody stops this person chasing after her with a scalpel.
Right, people are falling on the floor. It's like gasping and panting and falling and screaming, and nobody. There's nobody.
They pass a nurse. They pass an orderly. Yep. They just look a little puzzled and like, well, all right, I guess good luck with all that.
Not my business.
It's almost midnight. I gotta go home and watch The Grinch.
That's
Listen, I got eggnog waiting for me. I can't stop this murder happening in the hallway.
That's not my patient. I am. That's someone else's patient. I don't.
That's a HIPAA violation if I
That's
get involved in that.
That's not that's not an MP. That's a YP.
And so during Billy and Kelly's fight, Kelly manages to Aikido Billy over the edge of a staircase, and he lands back, spine first, into the top of a Christmas tree. And we get to see a bit of his guts twirl around the top of it as he descends.
Like, again, as far as like physics go, it kind of looks like his intestines are moving by themselves, like kind of swirling up the tree like a snake. And I'm like, I don't think that would happen, movie.
And as if a tree topper, they make tree toppers out of pure stainless steel, right? And these trees in a hospital are going to be like, they're not going to be the wobbly trees we all have in our living rooms and we see in real life. It's going to be some, the physics of falling onto the top of a tree with a tree topper on it, which, and having that go through your body without the thing falling over first, is just it's the pièce de non-physics resistance of the entire movie. It's the beautiful ending that makes absolutely could not possibly happen. But it with this movie, that's how it had to end. It had to end that way.
And then we get 8 minutes of credits. 8 minutes of credits.
8 minutes of credits.
I turned it on. When the title screen came up, I was like, oh, this movie has 9 minutes left. I guess there must be a post-credit sequence. And I'm like scrolling. Like, nope, this is just, for some reason, really long credits.
Leave them wanting more, was the rallying cry. And of course, the more that we are left wanting of is any semblance of sense.
It takes a lot of people to cut paper that much snow. I mean, that's a lot of paper cutting. That's a lot of sitting there with scissors and snipping away at typing paper to get that much snow.
So
and that's Black Christmas.
Yeah. Voila.
Another one for the
so
books.
it's time for our grand tradition here on the Kill by Kill podcast. And that is choose your own death venture. And that is where we decide, of the deaths presented in this section of the film, if you were forced to die that way, which one would you choose and why? Now, some of these are going to run in together, so we're just going to have one general category, and that is stabbed in the head. There's just a general head stabbing that's a part of this. Then you have part of your skull carved off by a thrown ice skate, or killed in the face by a defibrillator, or launched onto the top of what apparently is a Christmas tree made out of an old whaling harpoon.
Or having your neck snapped, like that's what happened to Lee.
Yeah, that, you know what? I'm so angry at that, I'm not even acknowledging that as a possibility. Talk about it. I swear to God, the end of this movie was directed by a completely different person. There's no way it's the same person. It doesn't look or act the same at all.
I heard the beginning and the ending were tacked on, right? Even the sanitarium scene, I think, was tacked on afterwards. Did you read that?
That feels right.
Yeah, even if it might not be factually true, and it could be, it feels emotionally true.
I accept that.
We're going to accept that just on merit alone. So Susan, as our guest, I choose you to go first.
Okay, I want the icicle through the head because then I'd still be alive. I'd be fine. So
because through the back of your skull, there's a lot of brain in that travel.
No. And then it's easy. You slip it out. It's like Phineas Gage at its worst. That's the worst that can happen is a Phineas Gage thing where I'm just like a grumpy person the rest of my life. I'm fine. I would go that way. And it's relatively painless.
Well, technically, you have chosen a path that A, is not represented in the movie, and B, also is not a death venture because it does not cause your death. It just causes your mood to change.
Andrea Martin died. I just don't think I would die. And you would not either. You would not either.
So if I put you in a cage match with Andrea Martin, you think you can take that woman? No, she is a SCTV veteran. I'll have you know.
Me and Andrea Martin, each with an icicle. Clearly,
Yes.
Clearly, her head is not made for icicle damage. I think I'd survive it.
Okay. This has been an odd flex, but cool. All right. Gina, what say you?
Well, we don't really know what happens to Melissa, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, but clearly it's quick. Because you don't live very long if your body has just powerfully injected that much blood at once. I mean, maybe it's a little bit of a Johnny Depp and Nightmare on Elm Street situation. I don't know, but whatever it was quick. And as we've established many times over, I am a coward. I don't enjoy pain. So yeah, I'm going I'm just convinced it's like her head exploded somehow. So that works for me. Also, I don't think you actually saw her on the head tree. So maybe they did do something to her head. I don't know. It's the movie makes no attempt to treat these characters as if they are human beings with human limitations. It's entirely possible one of them could just crush her head with their bare hands.
I think it's because Billy has not actually arrived until we see him enter that particular scene. So all of those bodies are the ones that Agnes was killed, as opposed to Billy.
Well, regardless. I don't know what happened to her, except it involved a lot of blood, and it probably, she exsanguated very quickly. So yeah, that is the way I would choose to go.
Okay. Well, straight up, I'm going defibrillator to the head, only because, really, I am in the need for a good house coat. I like the look. It just makes me feel cozy. And this house is full of windows, and it could get very breezy inside. We have a lot of heating disparities. So a house coat would be good for me, I think.
And yet you'd have to wear a long blonde wig.
Well, at one point in my life, I had some longer hair, and it did not look good on me. But I didn't pick up on that let your roots grow out that much sort of thing. And I think that really might change my look. Between that and the house coat, I think I could get it. I'd be one of them daddies everyone's talking about.
You would definitely achieve the look of child of incest.
Check.
Also, if the person who's defibrillating you doesn't know what they're doing, they die along with you, which is kind of a nice bonus.
Yeah, take one with you. So,
yeah.
2 for 1.
Why not? Finally. Okay. That just about does it for this edition of the show. But before we go, Susan, why don't we tell everyone where they can find you and hear more from you?
Yes, I do the podcast The Shining 237. I look at every 2 minutes and 37 seconds of The Shining consecutively. I'm coming up to the end of the movie. At this point, we're going to end about mid to late February. And then after that, I'm going to be doing Rosemary's Baby 666 every 6 minutes and 66 seconds of Rosemary's Baby. So sign up on iTunes, on Facebook and Twitter, and check me out. And I'm going to have a bunch of bonus episodes in between those two shows, but I'll be starting Rosemary's Baby probably in the spring. And like I said, wrapping up The Shining, we're at the best part right now. We're at the absolute most exciting part of the whole movie, where they're, everything's gone nuts. We're just about to get to the guy in the bear suit, dog suit, bear suit. So yeah, tune in.
I love that scene so much. I literally have a T-shirt with that image in a heart. I honestly do.
Let me just plug also. Last episode, I had Leon Kirch, who's the Oscar-winning director and writer of Coco and Toy Story 2, and he's writing a book on The Shining, and you can't believe how good that episode is. Best episode I ever did. It's so many secrets about how they made The Shining, things that you've never heard. It was like the highlight of my life. So if you listen to that last episode, it's the one that's up right now, the latest one. So
that sounds fantastic. Check it out, people. Hey, Gina, where can people find out more about you on these internets?
I write about old television and movies and pop culture at my website, ginaradcliffe.com. I am also a writer for Alcohollywood. Some of my recent reviews, well, I haven't done it yet, but it will be up by the time this goes live. The upcoming Netflix movie Bird Box, which is based on a very good horror novel. I also have recently done The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I've written about the anniversaries of Scrooge and Her and other stuff like that. That's at alcohollywood.com, and I am on Twitter at porcelain72.
Excellent. Do it today. People do not delay. Of course, if you want to reach out to us, there's the easiest way to do it. It's on Twitter at KillByKillPod or at Instagram, KillByKillPodcast. We have the Facebook group and page where you can discuss things in more detail. And of course, well, we've finished Friday the 13th and we've finished Black Christmas. And that means in the new year, we start a new chapter. The podcast of your dreams has become the podcast of your nightmares. We are going to go through the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, one death at a time. It will not take us 2.5 years like Friday the 13th. This will go much faster, but it might be much better. At least the movies are, and hopefully we are too. We're super excited about it. We have a list of people that we're going to bring on to talk to us about it, and I think everyone's going to have a great time. It's going to be finger knives for days, y'all. So that just about does it until 2000.
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Well, what?
You have to mention our Patreon.
Oh, those people who pay us? Okay.
Yes, we have a Patreon, and it's actually coming along better than we anticipated. Something that a little you look at how the sausages are made. Patrick and I never expected anything we do is going to turn out well. we spend much of our Facebook conversations just constantly boosting each other up that this is not a complete waste of time that has stolen 2.5 years of our lives away, that this is actually been a very fun venture that has entertained a lot of people, and it turns out our Patreon is rolling along pretty nicely. We have 3 new donors to mention: Zerwhiskey, Brett Vogel, and Patrick. We got another $10 Patreon. It's Karen Corday. So probably in the next couple weeks, we will have the opportunity to make our $10 Patreon reward come to fruition, in which she and our other current $10 patron will be able to choose a movie for us to review. So we don't know what that's going to be. It's exciting and also a little terrifying. But if you want to get in on that, our Patreon is look us up under patreon.com/killbykill.
Yes, do it today, people. Okay, so that does it for this time. But don't worry, the body count will continue in 2019. And so until that time, for myself, for Gina, for Susan, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Kill by Kill is produced by We Write Good and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Friday the 13th is owned by Paramount Pictures. Jason is owned by New Line Cinema. No infringement is intended. Kill by Kill logo was designed by Josh Hollis. Visit him at joshhollis.com. The Kill by Kill theme was created exclusively for us by Revenge Body. Get the whole track and much, much more at revengebodymemphis.bandcamp.com today.